Hey, what's up? This is part three of my video referencing. It became something of a reference to statements by Kanye West, but that actually wasn't the real premise of the message. Um, the main message that I wanted to come with was to disavow um, this channel, disavow, disassociate with my own statements, but not to delete them because I think that the body of work on this channel, it's a testament to who I am, where I have been, and potentially where I can go, um, based on my genuine experience in the colony of what's called United States at the calendar year of 2025 in the Greco-Roman calendar. I've made other statements on this channel saying that I think that what we have for dates is our arbitrary, especially the Greco-Roman calendar, but just as a reference for the position within the affairs of men and women and people, it can be useful and worthwhile to reference the position that reflects generally, but it can still be confounding, baffling, redundant, arbitrary, and counterproductive to lean too heavily into these references as the reality in themselves. Um, and but with that, um, I think that all that I may have said on this channel, all that I may have experienced in life to this day, it cannot be it's not independent of the actual the processes of subjugation, no less than in maybe the principle of which being indoctrination, such as the reliance on the Greco-Roman calendar, some of our reliance on our senses that would probably be a function of our modern iteration of reality, and our interchangeable mythology that may come to the point of delusion, including what we would call education, generally speaking, religion, generally speaking, politics, economics, all the way art, media, sports, um, fighting, military, all the way love making sometimes, pornography, all these different things that are they are attendant of the human experience. They have now become part of the human experience, but as they are presented and understood, may exist differently than so. According to illustrate what I'm saying, where I'm going with this, I was watching a very recent post by Taj Treek Bey and Dr. G in collaboration on the channel Reawakening Minds that appeared within less than a week. I think that very title of theirs was referencing money, what it is and isn't. Very synonymous and a little bit correlating and synchronous with recent videos that I made about money itself. Now, I've actually contacted that man before, and I spoke with him in person before of my own choosing and solicitation. He was generous enough to give me some of his time in the past, and he enunciated clearly for me in that conversation what connotative linguistics is, and he's made other references on his channel about what money may and may not be, and where I heavily borrow from his insights, and I've made the best efforts and rigors in scholarship, um, spontaneously and extemporaneously on this channel as appropriate, to make it clear, to delineate what his contribution is and his original thought and scholarship and statements are upon YouTube and other means of his, and what mine are. But in the truest sense, with scholarship, intellectualism, art, creativity, you can't really say what came first or second. Now, I'll be clear that Taj Treek Bey came before I did in linear, in what we'll call linear time, as a man, as a leader, as a thinker. He is much my senior, and I'm much his junior as a man, and also as a scholarship. I can't hold a candle to that man, his scholarship and his actual pedigree of learning, and because he actually comes from the people that he references. But so just to say that it coincides. But what he enunciated in a recent video is that many people would appreciate that fiat. They can appreciate cash money, paper cash money, and some of our coins as like the Federal Reserve notes as fiat. But what he goes on to explain is that that's the most superficial of fiat. The fiat is the entire thought process, thought paradigm, human paradigm of the modern reality, especially in Western societies, the United States, but probably likely the world over by now. The entire the foundation of the education, the dates, the references, the education and miseducation together is all that is fiat. And he would go so far as to say the religion also, a lot of some of our experiences at this point are actually fiat. If you appreciate that we were referencing fiat when we had the experiences, and we were interpreting them through the lens of our existence, which has become fiat at this point. The money activates, sustains, protects, validates, manifests much of our experience. The money is fiat, therefore our ass is also fiat largely. Now I'm not saying love itself is fiat, or our the people we love, our descendants, our progeny, our predecessors are fiat themselves. But the paradigm that we have existed and been overlaid upon us and interfaced through is actually fiat, such as our understanding. So I just want to give 2 points to I'm just going to give 2 references to that, and then I'll land it there, and someone can take from this what they would. So one is that, so the world over, we're now part of the Judeo-Christian reality now. So you may not traverse the earth without proximity to the major Abrahamic faiths, that is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. You may not get away from the Abrahamic faiths or implications of the activities, political, social, economic, that are tended by them and sustained by them, and as Tashriq Bey would say, owned by them. It's owned by that at this point. The world over, the world has been colonized by the hegemony of the Judeo-Christian Islamic faith, that is the Abrahamic faith. Now, if you simply appreciate, now to reference fiat, okay, so I'm an adult. I've served children. I've been a bus driver. I've been a school bus driver. It's referenced that the covenant, the strength of the bond between what's called the Lord in the books of the early books of the Bible, the Abrahamic books that I think all 3 of those religions I referenced heavily reference and derive authority from, is based on the pact between, I think it's Abraham and his God. The understanding was his God demanded that he sacrificed his own son, who was yet a child, I think, to sacrifice him to an altar, and then Abraham called forth his son to do so. He was willing to slay a child on behalf of his God and his standing with his God, but also what his God could do for him based on his standing, and what his God would think of him based on his standing, based on sacrificing his child. Now, why would you sacrifice someone? Now, to sacrifice someone or something, that is to slay, to fell something otherwise innocent, otherwise pure, otherwise kind, otherwise unblemished, to do injustice to something unblemished as a statement. That's pure evil. That's evil. That's nothing but evil. If you're a man, if you call yourself a man or someone who serves children, as I have, you wouldn't play with something like that. What business has any man, woman of any background, of any righteousness, of any standing whatsoever, to play with a thought like that, to hint at, to get that going, to start the process of that, no less, to make an earnest statement. So either what you're calling your God is either a liar for demanding that and making a person think they would do that to a child and then change. That's you could say that's a lie, or to begin to do that and change your mind. Either way, what standing have you as anyone, anything, anyhow, to play with the welfare of a young person for a benefit or gain, for a statement? That's evil par excellence. So your entire structure of faith is the word that moves. Most things are based. So you go before that. They say that the United States is the first body of power, is the world's leading power. So what directs the world's leading power? Now, according to Tashriq Bey, the United States can be better understood. It's now a democracy. It had been a republic. A lot of people don't appreciate how and when it went from being a republic to a democracy, according to Tashriq Bey. There are nuances with that, but it occurred around the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, occurred to Tashriq Bey. that specific point is a point where the republic, which had previously been owned by the church, no less, outright, was transferred. The say so, maybe not the ownership, but the say so was transferred to the Congress at that point when it became a democracy. That's what you're saying with democracy, according to Tashreeq Bey. The goings on of the Congress are actually not privy to the public. You don't know the type of language that they use and the reasoning that they make for their statements to this day. I don't think the Congress, no less. But if you had to appear before Congress, you would swear upon the Holy Bible. The Holy Bible takes the strength of the Holy Bible is not the forgiveness and the mercy of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. It is actually the Old Testament. Is I think the Old Testament, the word, when you refer to the word of God, you're referring to the covenant between God and Abraham, which is based on the pretext and the pretense and the near about assassination of a child for the sake of clout, trust, solidarity, agreement, standing, status, rapport, favor between two anything, based on slaying a child. So that's bogus. So your entire reality based on that right there, you have no more or less authority to move than that right there is bogus right there. It's fiat. Then now that's already we've been emancipated from some of the pretenses of that, but not the reality of that. And that has transitioned to the medical establishment. So I won't say much about the medical establishment, but this much. So a lot of people would say mental health. So that's a lot of the crux of another euphemism, but the crux of modern medicine is about mental health. A lot of money making, drug pushing, drug affliction is based upon the concept of mental health. I read a book on witchcraft, no less, that says that term was coined by a former witch hunter. There's a history between the abuses of mental health, the abuses of the church, the power and sway of mental health, the power of the church. It has seemed to have transitioned. The veneer of power has went from behind the cloth to now the degree, the paper on the wall. But the very term mental health is one a euphemism coined by a witch hunter, according to a book on witchcraft. However, when you say mental health, so you to anybody who would enunciate the term mental health and think that it has reality is actually suffering from what it refers to by mental health, simply because there's a book by Arlen Lowland, I think, and he said that one way that you can appreciate someone who's suffering what's called mental health is that they'll exactly, I'm kind of doing it right now, they'll hold their head at an angle like this. Like if you can imagine Jason or Michael Myers like holding their head like that, that would look kind of crazy. The reason a person would get to do that is because the exact modern fiat paradigm, which makes a person think that the head, mind is anything, but also different than the body. That would make a person do their head like that. So you are suffering what you're calling mental health when you think that your mind is different than your body. That's a crisis right there. That's a delusion becoming a reality that health will suffer from because it's not congruent. But that's the first tier of it, to think that the mind is different than the body. But then to think that the mind is part of the body, that's the second degree of mental health. That's also a problem, because actually the body is the mind. There is nothing to exist. There's no experience of reality outside of the mind. All is mind. To think that, but the body and the mind are the same. To think that there's a difference between the body and the mind is what you would call mental health crisis. Mental health, the statement itself, it only exacerbates that. But then to think that the mind is part of the body, secondary, that they're one, but that's anything different than the mind, that's the second part. Then to think that the mind is anything different than reality, that's another degree. Then to think that the reality is anything different than the mind, but also is not open. So what you have in this life is a dream. But there's also stress in a dream, because sometimes when you're in a dream, you can't accomplish what you would like to, and you have conflict in a dream yet. So you have two things that exist. You have dreaming, which is you. Then you have your creativity within dreaming. And the only thing that has any reality other than, there's two things that have reality: meaning and effort. That's what reality is, as it can be objective. Beyond that is subjectivity. It's to your liking or disliking, but it's nothing but dreaming, no more or less real, and will be no more hereafter after you're done thinking it, that is dreaming it. But the weight, so you have the dreaming, and then you also have the effort, but that also can require cooperation, because you have other members of yourself which appear different but are also you. So anything, so you have, so that's why I think a lot of people that lift weights, they have conflict. They think it's the ego, but what they're experiencing is that you're experiencing so much of health, so much of you, so much of choice and initiative and autonomy, but you come into conflict when you need the weight of it, when you need it to become real, to be realized, to be exerted, that requires both effort and cooperation, which is it's a little bit malleable, and that's what all actors in this life are trying to monopolize and seize, but more so arbitrary because they're being because they're relishing it and not being economy and not having economy. The only way to be economy is to be just. The only way to be just is to be true. So what I've said in this commentary, in this video, and in this very video now, is for the sake of truth. However, I appreciate that I am comprised of and standing upon fiat, so I disavow it. I let it rock for what value it has, because it's a real testimony and statement based on where I currently travail in the position of the calendar year of 2025 and heretofore and here thereafter. But it had all been fiat there except for the love.